Hey guys, what is going on? It's Jay Campbell from the TRTRevolution.com and the Definitive Testosterone Replacement Therapy Manual. And I am joined here by my wonderful friends on our 7th episode of the Decoders for Truth podcast. I have, of course, Matthew LaCroix, the brilliant, amazing author of The Illusion of Us, and then the incomparable Gerald Clark, who has written The Anunnaki of Nibiru and The Seventh Planet, Mercury Rising. So much to talk about, but before we get into all that stuff, we are joined by a very, very special guest, a member of our group on Facebook, which again is on the Decoders of Truth guys on Facebook group. It's everywhere on YouTube. We posted it everywhere. Just reach out to us if you want to get in there. But Marlene, I cannot pronounce her last name very well, but she goes by Fankus inside the Facebook group, and she has been been able to join us tonight, and we are extremely, extremely excited to have her with us. She has an amazing story. And with that said, Marlene, how are you?
I find myself in perfect conditions, thank you. And I'm very, very privileged. I'm very happy to be able to be with you here tonight. Tonight in your place, but morning here in India. That's
so awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Matt, how are you doing, brother?
Doing great. I'm having a nice night. It's nice and cool tonight for once. We've had a few hot nights, but it's nice to see how bright and sunny it is over on Marlene's side over there.
No doubt. She has wonderful lighting. Gerald, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. It's nighttime here, just like it is for you guys. But in Dharamshala, India, what is it, about 8 o'clock in the morning now, Marlene? Is that about right?
Correct. Yeah, correct. Right now we have exactly 8:05 in the morning.
Awesome.
A truly connected discussion tonight here, Jay.
Totally connected discussion. I mean, again, like we've been saying, the wonder of the internet, this is the nerve ganglia for people of high conscious to, join together and communicate. So a lot of stuff, as always. We have a lot of questions, but we have some topics of discussion that we think are really at the top. And first and foremost, we want to talk to Marlene about, her story and, how she's gotten to where she is now, what made her, pursue what she's pursuing. And without said, I don't have to say anything else. Marlene, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you've been doing over the last 10 to 15 years and how you found us, and, whatever you want to share with us. We're really excited to listen to it.
Well, to start from the beginning in this life, I was born on 24th of December 1973. So I'm a Capricorn. And I think for the most of us who are in the present moment in search for truth, it starts actually from a very early age. Most of us, we didn't really fit into society. We felt like something was missing in our life. And when you grow up and you have access to more information, then you come in contact with certain aspects in life that you feel okay, this is it. For me, it was at the age of 19 that I encountered Hinduism, but due to distractions, I could just continue with my life. And then at the age of 23, this knowledge came back on my path. So I studied the Bhagavad Gita, which is related in Hinduism, which is a complete book, which explains about karma, about all the different layers of our being, and how to reach our highest potential, which is our godliness, which is inside of us. So these days we call it universal consciousness, but the more traditional names are enlightenment or Buddhahood or Christ consciousness, whatever label suits for a person. Then let's see, where will we jump then? Due to causes and conditions, I had to leave the Bhagavad Gita behind because I was joining an ISKCON temple. I was going to the temple to get information over there. But due to ignorance, people did not really agree with the ISKCON temple. Also, my father, for example. So he requested me to stay away from the people with very strange haircuts and white robes and singing bells and singing and dancing in the street. He was afraid that his daughter would get brainwashed or whatever wrong information is there. And so yeah, I left it, and this is how I encountered Buddhism. And that was when I was 25. I also was doing yoga, hatha yoga, very intensely, of which I still have very much benefit in the present day. And then at the age of 25, I knew, okay, this is it. This is the only thing worth living for. So for 5 years, then I have been preparing myself. I already started studying, creating all the causes and conditions in order to India. And then at the age of 29, it was January 2003, January 2003, I just packed all my bags and I arrived in India. And that's about it.
Wow. So you've been studying in India. Tell us a little bit about that. So you've been studying under whom for how long?
My first teachings were in the year 2003, which were the teachings of His Holiness Dalai Lama. So as most of you know, I live in Dharamshala, and I live right behind the corner of His Holiness. So we call him His Holiness, referring to his pure essence inside and all the accomplishments that he has made in this lifetime and previous lifetimes. So my first teaching was with him, and then I was directed towards a student of him, Geshe Sonam Rinchen. 30 years ago, His Holiness Dalai Lama, he felt the need for Westerners to have guidance on a daily basis. And so he requested Geshe Sonam Rinchen to start teaching in the Tibetan library here in Dharamshala, MacLeod Ganj. And so he did so for more than 30 years. Every day, for 1 hour a day, he was teaching us all the scriptures, all the Buddhist scriptures. Topics from loving kindness up to universal consciousness. So I attended these classes for many years. You could say 1 hour a day is not so much, but if you really take it seriously, then in 1 hour you get so much information, and then the rest of the day you have to make time for contemplating the information and to familiarizing yourself and then implementing it into your daily life. This is how we make the fastest progress on the path. Then also I attend teachings of other masters. We also have Chamtrul Rinpoche, which is a sentient being who is reincarnating continuously to help us to make progress on the path. And then on YouTube, you also find Jetsunma Tenzin Palmo. She's a remarkable person. She originates from England, and at the age of 19, she came to India. She became the first Westerner Tibetan nun. She had been meditating in a cave for 12 years, so she has enormous amount of experience, and she is teaching Westerners, also guiding them on a daily basis. You can find a lot of information about her. What is so good about Tenzin Palmo is that to have sacred scriptures explained from a Westerner mind to a Westerner mind, that is very, very beneficial because Tibetan Buddhism has been written for a Tibetan mind. Mm-hmm. And we Westerners, we are much more sensitive than Tibetan people. Tibetan people have a much broader mind. Also, in Tibetan Buddhism, everything is very exaggerated. So that the people of the Tibetan minds could easily grasp the meaning of everything. But we Westerners, we would take everything so seriously, and we are sometimes so strict with ourselves that we are actually harming ourselves, and we are pulling ourselves down by thinking, I'm not good enough, I'm failing on every level, and in this way, of course, we cannot make progress. So this was just to call out a few names, a few divine beings that I had the privilege to study with and practice with.
Jay, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask her, Marlene, a couple of questions.
Of course.
Number one, being a Westerner, Marlene, you clearly can see the places where the concepts of spirit and energy and the kind of things I've written about in my book tie in with Buddhism. And I know you've read that information. So how would you explain to the Western mind what the linkage is for the idea of Buddha consciousness or Christ consciousness and the concept of some of the terms that are used in the Christian faith, for instance? How would you link those for people so that they understand we're really talking about the same thing? Or do you want me to do that?
Well, you can do it. I think we all learn from
I'd like to hear your perspective because you clearly didn't go down a traditional path from your origin. Okay.
Well, I think that we all have to start with the beginning, and that is the creator of all. Yeah, everything comes from the creator of all, which means that all the religions, they are also coming straight from the creator of all. Whether you want to call him God or whatever label suits you, that is just secondary. Yeah. So every true religion comes from the same source. Mm-hmm. Now, when you dive into a religion or a certain path, since it is all based on the same foundation, they are all talking about the same, only the terminology is different. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would even include today's science in that. Yeah, we label it as science, but to me, what is science? Science is explaining to the today's modern mind what the sacred religions have been telling us since 65 million years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They used to be combined too. It didn't used to be a separate thing.
Well, I wanted to find out, have you read some of the writings of Krishnamurti from that area? He was a really great teacher in India.
No, I have not. No, I have not. No.
Okay. He was one of my favorites. I just wondered if you connected with him. Because a lot of your thinkings about spiritual matters are very similar to mine. And I know that's why we've been resonating with each other on Facebook or YouTube
well,
all the time.
You know, you can find truth everywhere. Mm-hmm. In whichever field, if you just dig deep enough, then we will all come to the same conclusion, which is actually very normal because all the information comes from the same source.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of that, I wanted to share. Speaking of sources, not to interrupt you, one of the key areas that got me so interested in the Buddhist path and the Hindu path was the understanding of who Ningshita, Thoth, Buddha really was. Because if you look up who Buddha was, what's his affiliated planet, what are his signs, you'll find it was none other than Ningshita. And I think, Marlene, you discovered that as well, did you not?
Yes, well, actually, I never heard of Thoth or Ningshita before I met you, because for 13 years or for 12 years, I was traveling inside of myself. I was a little bit cut off from the information of daily life. But for what I have read, for what I have studied, Thoth and in the reincarnation as of Ningshita, it is exactly the same, 100% exactly the same as Jesus and the Buddha.
Right,
I agree.
So it would not surprise me also when we are listening to other sources. There is the book, for instance, The Children of the Law of One, the lost teachings of Atlantis.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I have gone through this book. I have found nothing that I do not agree with. I resonate with everything. And in that book is mentioned that Thoth was here since the very beginning Yeah, when the first souls descended on Earth.
Right.
Well, that coincides with what he says in the Emerald Tablets as well. Prior to Atlantis, he claimed that he, along with 32 other avatars, came to this Earth. And at that time, there was a terrible battle of dark and light going on then. Ooh.
So there we have it.
There you go.
There it is. So just real quick to add. So Marlene recommended this book to me. I finished it. It is an amazing, amazing book. I mean, there's a lot of similarities to, the stuff that Gerald is talking about in both of his books. And obviously there's stuff in here too that correlates to what Matt has written in his book as well. But
there's one other document too, Jay. There's one other document called the Kabbalion. If you haven't read that one.
So, it's so funny. Somebody recommended it to me, but that's the teachings of Hermes, right? Which is obviously
exactly. And actually, I have to tell you, I'm reading the Manly P. Hall book, Secret Teachings of All Ages. And he's got a massive amount of documents inside that book where he's talking about Thoth and Hermes. So I'm really focusing on that part right now. And it all seems to point back to him, actually, as the source of most of our understanding of spiritual matters.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing, guys? If you also mention another very, very important name is in the Library of Nag Hammadi they discovered in the Giza Plateau, the Book of Enoch. Right. That is also, the incarnation of Thoth.
I agree.
So if you look at if that's the very beginning of pagan earliest religion, spirituality,
right? Gnostics.
If that's the very beginning of where it came from, then it makes sense that that's the same being who's been spreading it all over the world all along.
Yeah. Speaking of that, Mauro Bellino comes to that same conclusion in chapter 10 of his book.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, I think at this point, and we've identified this on a couple of shows, and I got a couple of questions for you, Marlene. But I think at this point, for any reasoned seeker who's pursued knowledge, whether it's in the form of working under ascetics or ascended masters, as Marlene has, or whether it's myself or Matt or Gerald, in reading for decades or close to a couple decades for Matt, I think it's just there's no way to not put two and two together and to say that Thoth is the incarnation of all of these other great ascetics, these teachers, and Marlene said Buddha and Jesus the Christ, and all of these other great teachers. I think it's just too simple once you're at a level of understanding to see the unison across cultures around the globe of how there's one figure. And again, we could name them, you could say Quetzalcoatl, you could say Viracocha. I mean, it's the same person.
Yeah.
And that's when you understand that, at least in my opinion, I know you guys share it with me, it seems easier to try to define this, quantitatively versus I just remember 2 years ago when I was down this path and I really started getting higher and really pursuing this before I knew who Gerald was. Well, actually, it was right. I just read the Anunnaki of Nibiru, but Gerald and I had no relationship. I really wanted to understand how Jesus could have been all over the world, right? Like if you read Slave Species of the Gods, and I read that a long time ago, but when I read that book and I started reading Tellinger's information about how Jesus was everywhere, it didn't make sense. Like, how could Jesus be on every different part of the globe, when he was supposedly around? Well, it makes sense when you realize that Thoth is incarnating in physical avatar beings who are considered spiritual teachers, and they're everywhere around the planet because they're conveying the same message. And so anyway, to get back to Marlene real quick, so Marlene, you had mentioned this to us, and then, your posts are amazing in the group. And so the people that you've taught under, are they connected at all digitally as you are? Like, do they actually use the internet and communicate the way we're communicating? I mean, because obviously, you found Gerald through his YouTube stuff, and then we found you, and then you found the group, and now we're all communicating. But I mean, is that reasonable to assume, or are they so removed from all of this that they have no communication with the outside world at all?
Well, everybody is unique and everybody has its own way of dealing with life. But for, let's call them the hardcore practitioners, they are focusing solely on reaching universal consciousness as soon as possible. So they are having their priorities very straight. I want to reach enlightenment in order to help all sentient beings to reach. And since this is a very intense practice, very time-consuming, but a very joyful path, they are not allowing any distraction to come on their path. This is the reason why some of them are going to go and meditate in a cave, which is not necessary, but it helps you to get away from unnecessary distractions. So to answer your question straight, I think most of the hardcore practitioners, no, they are not spending so much time on the internet, or if it is related to their research into the scriptures and so on, then they would do. I've experienced that a lot of lamas now and high rinpoches, which are very high evolved beings on the Tibetan Buddhist path. Their students are posting more and more on the internet, but they themselves, well, His Holiness Dalai Lama, he does not know how a computer works. He can type a little bit on it, but that is it so far. But then on the other hand, if he would have spent so much time in computer knowledge, then we would not be able to benefit from all the wisdom that he has right now. So they have their priorities straight.
Well, that's why you're bridging that gap for us tonight.
That's right. So right.
But you know, to be honest, okay, there was a couple of months ago, that I was studying about the Lost Book of Enki, going back to the Emerald Tablets, going to other sources of the Anunnaki, and there was a very loud call inside of me that was saying, Marlene, what are you doing? Are you really still on your path? Are you really still following your compass, or are you getting distracted right now? Yeah. And I thought, well, but it's important to know what happened to the world, to know what happened to us. And the answer was immediately, Marlene, as soon as you reach universal consciousness, you will know everything. And you will just know everything. You will be able to help everyone without a single mistake. Yeah. So keep your priorities straight. Yeah. Stay on your practice. Do not divert from your practice. Yeah, which takes a lot of discipline. Yeah.
I hope you're not to interrupt. I hope you're going to take just a few minutes, not to make it seem unapproachable what it is that you do as part of your practice, but maybe share some of the steps that that are common practice that you do each day. I think there were some of them that Jay had on a document.
Well, yeah, I have it.
Okay.
If you want, let me share this.
I will get to that.
Okay.
I will get to that.
Okay.
But so I think for any person who has the goal of to get out of the matrix, in Buddhism we call this to get out of samsara, the world of illusion, the matrix only being inside of your head. The matrix is not existent outside of us. The matrix is only existing inside of our own mind. If you have as your personal goal, to come out of the matrix, then it's very necessary to get your priorities straight, to make a schedule and to not divert from your schedule. You have to be very disciplined.
And you have to take the red pill, don't you?
Careful.
I mean,
he's a trickster.
We're really going down the rabbit hole now.
I think that Matt would have preferred to have the color blue for the red pill.
Well, actually, that's funny.
Blue pill all the way.
Well, it's funny that there's a polarity discussed about the chakra colors. Well, like I think you mentioned on a post, you have to enter the red before you ever get to the blue, and everything in between has to be cleared.
Absolutely.
So it's really symbolic.
Absolutely. Well, the highest chakra, which is the crown chakra, cannot be fully functional if all the other chakras are not in balance.
That's correct.
And what determines right or wrong is in the way you are using the energy. Yeah, I prefer to be balanced in the root chakra than unbalanced in the throat chakra.
So let me ask you a question about that then, because you wrote another amazing post 2 days ago about how the root chakra, not the root chakra, the crown chakra doesn't become activated until a certain year interval in your life, which just happens to be the time for me. So it blew my mind, and I need to research chakras more than I have, and that's something I will do. But when you say if they're not open, so the first 6, the root and all the other chakras, if they're not open, what allows someone to have open chakras?
I would say the main thing is balance. Yeah, balance in every field and every aspect of your life. Every chakra has its own function. The chakra of the root, the function of the root chakra, one of the functions is stability. It's also to be grounded. It's also a space of comfort. So if you are not rooted, if you are not feeling comfortable in your root chakra, then all the other chakras are also going to be out of balance.
So this is fascinating, Marlene. I want to go deeper. So when you say balance, I mean, obviously Gerald and I and Matt and Rex may come on the show, guys, tonight. We don't know. He may just join us at some point. So anyway, if he does, he does.
I talked to him, and he'd done several shows today, and so he's burned out. I think he burned himself out.
Okay, no problem. No problem. But let me just ask real quick. So what determines when you say balance? Is it physical health, mental health, or is it just a mindset of a person?
Balance means all the levels. If one level is out of balance, then it reflects also on the other levels. But it is very important to understand that everything originates from the mind. Everything starts from the mind. Get your mind straight, and then all the rest will also come into place.
That's why I think they use red and blue. It's not about, I don't think it's about the chakras. I think it's about the wavelength that you actually are going to choose. Because you said, right, that it derives from the mind originally, not anywhere else. Then that pill represents which step are you going to take out of the mind. Are you going to stay within the illusions of the matrix within the mind, right? That red vibrational frequency that keeps you locked in your own psychological control, or that blue vibrational frequency, which is, I think, what coincides with our waking up. I think that's why it's a decision point to make. And then once you make that pill, that choice, then you can unlock every chakra within your system, because you've chosen to wake up on that path, basically.
Okay, according to your reasoning, if the red chakra is the one responsible to keep you blocked inside the matrix, then how is it possible that the root chakra is still present in the moment that you leave the matrix?
No, not the red root chakra to keep you in the matrix. A red vibrational frequency to keep you locked in. It's basically like our antennas. One antenna is stuck on one station the whole time versus the other station of truth. Let me chime in a little bit. What you're talking about is a decision of the will to choose between good and evil. Essentially, when you're analogizing to two different colors, Matt. But that is a brain wave function versus a frequency that's different at the chakras. The chakras have their own wavelength that are fixed. We can't seem to change those except through yoga and structural integration, eating right,
hormonal balance, right? All this,
So the energy body and the endocrine system very much go hand in hand in bringing those nerve ganglia to the right wavelength, which is color.
And that's where I was trying to go with Marlene. Gerald, thank you for.
May I add something?
Of course,
I'm
go
allowed.
ahead.
In order to come out of the matrix, we have to access every frequency. Every frequency is activated. All the frequencies together are activated, once you are out of the matrix. They are fully functional. All of them, you are completely, all of your frequencies are fully powered, fully conscious, and fully activated once you reach universal consciousness. So you cannot leave one thing out. Nothing you can leave out because it would not exist then.
So how many people actually, when I say people, sapiens, us, assuming we are all sapiens,
Earthlings,
how many what's the percentage of us that actually can reach universal consciousness, Christ consciousness, you know, like you call, you know, the ultimate, the God level? I mean, how many people, what is the percentage? I guess I'm just trying to quantify it for people out there watching the show.
100%.
Everyone, right?
But
100%.
through history, the problem is,
right,
how many actually achieve it?
That's what I mean. That's my biggest question. I mean, my real question is, yeah, sure, we're all capable of it, but what actual percentage of us gets to that level? I mean, I got to say it's less than 0.5%, right? I mean, probably less than that.
It's much easier for some than others based on, we talk about the RH negative bloodlines versus, I think DNA has a big part to play in what beings can reach an enlightened state versus those who have a much more difficult time.
Yeah, I think that there may be some truth to that. I think being in a place where you've culturally decided
that too.
Materialism is crap, and that finding this universal consciousness as a society, like what's happened in the older cultures, like in India and like in Tibet and other places.
Well, I mean,
where that decision
right, Gerald.
a lot more people
Honestly,
have achieved it, right?
Right.
Honestly, I think we are very, very privileged to live in the era of today.
I agree.
When I left Belgium, then I did not have access to all the scriptures, which I'm having now, and which are now all available on the internet. Yeah. So in this era that we are living today, it does not matter in which society you are living. It does not matter what kind of job you are doing. Yeah. Everything has been exposed to us. Nothing has been hidden. So in this era, it is each individual responsibility to wake up. Every tool is available to you. If you really want to reach, whether you live on the North Pole with internet connection, or whether you live in New York City, or even when you are in a prison cell, you can do it.
That's why it's called ignorance, because it's to ignore and not to not know. It's to choose to ignore it.
So we have some amazing topics I wanted to start diving into, but let's see perfectly to one of the tools that Marlene has given us. And I'm going to share the screen real quick here. Marlene, I want you to walk us through this. You'll see it in about 2 seconds. You put in the Facebook group, and again, I'll constantly reflect back. Everybody who's watching this can join our Facebook group. It's free. It's public. It's Decoders for Truth. It's, Facebook group. Just look for it on Facebook. You'll find it easily, and just ask to come in and we'll let you in. But do you want to can you read this, Marlene? Do you want to walk us through this real quick?
In order to save time, I'm not going to read it. People can read it for themselves.
Sure.
I think it is better if I can make just additions to it.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so it is very important that you wake up. Okay, for the people who have their priority to come out of the matrix, we have to create the right causes for it. Everything in this universe is cause and effect. If you create the right causes, then you will have the effect, right? Okay, so right before sunrise, there is a lot of prana available. Prana, which is very pure life energy. Yeah, it has to do with the sun rising above the horizon, being in a certain angle, shining on Earth, and charging the electricity. The energy. Okay, it is very important that you wake up before sunrise, that you are conscious before sunrise, so this prana can enter inside of your consciousness. This will set the course for the rest of your day. Yeah, me personally, I wake up at 4:30 in the morning and immediately I take a cold shower. A cold shower, well, let me explain you. It is a cold Himalayan snow water cold shower. So it's really freezing cold. But it is my first laughter of the day. When you are standing under an ice cold shower, you can do nothing except laughing. Yeah. So what is a more beautiful way of starting your day with laughter? You take this energy with you for the rest of the day. Okay. Then after the cold shower, immediately I start my Hatha Yoga practice. For me, Hatha Yoga practice is meditation in action. You are keeping your body in a certain position. You keep your mind inside of your body in certain energy centers, and then you bring the prana into these centers. So people who have difficulties with decay of nerves, of blocked nerves, or blocked spaces in their body energy field. Yeah, Hatha Yoga is very, very, very helpful, very beneficial for this. Then after the Hatha Yoga session, which is approximately 40 minutes, then I do a sitting meditation, which is called the circulation of breath. The circulation of breath is also mentioned in the book The Lost Teachings of Atlantis and the Children of the Law of One. Which is actually pulling up the energy from your root chakra on your back all the way up through your upper lip, and then in the out breath, so you do this in your in breath, and then in the out breath you bring it down back to into your root chakra. This helps you to activate the Kundalini, which should be done very, very carefully, and it also helps to improve the circulation in your energy field, inside of your energy body. Let's check every time the mind wanders. Yeah. So I'm looking at point 3, which is about mindfulness. Okay. Since everything originates inside of the mind, truly, people, there is only the mind. Everything that you experience outside of yourself is the result of the mind.
Yeah.
So if you want to change the external world, you have to work on your mind. What is a mind that is workable with? A workable mind is a mind that has clarity and that is peaceful. Yeah, peaceful meaning to be able to focus. If your mind is doing its usual monkey thing, jumping from one thing to another thing, you are going to get nowhere. So we have to train to focus our mind. And breath awareness, so keeping your awareness on your breathing, is a very useful tool for this. Why? Okay, the breathing is always in the present moment. Yeah, truth can only be found in the present moment, never in the future, never in the past. The present moment is the only moment that truly exists. Okay, so a lot of our suffer is created through aversion, yeah, or grasping. The grasping mind or the aversion mind, I like or I don't like. Yeah, which is called attachment. Yeah, all the suffer comes from there. Mm-hmm.
Right.
So in order to focus our mind, yeah, we have to focus on something which is always in the present moment, towards we do not have aversion or grasping, something neutral. We don't want to create new karma, so we have to find something neutral. Okay, the breath is always with us. Okay, so when you focus on your breathing, you're sitting in a straight position. Yeah, when your mind is very agitated, then it's very useful to focus on the rising and the falling of your belly. Mm-hmm. If you focus on your nose, for instance, then you will notice that it's too close to the thinking mind, and for this reason we create a little bit distance and we focus on the rising and the falling of the belly. For a lot of us, within 2-3 seconds, the mind is going to be somewhere else.
Right.
What do I have to do the next stream, the next day or the next week or the next month? This is very normal. This is the function of the conventional mind.
Mm-hmm.
This is what the mind does. So don't get frustrated. Just gently bring yourself back to the present moment, focus again on your breathing, and you repeat this time after time after time until it becomes a habit. You will also notice that the breath and the mind are very closely related. When you have an agitated mind, then your breathing becomes very fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you are peaceful, yeah, then your breathing is very shanti, it's very peaceful. Yeah, so while you are doing your mindfulness with the object, the breath, then you will notice that your mind becomes very calm. So in that practice, you focus on two things necessary in order to make progress on the path: a calm mind and a focused mind. Okay, then the next step is breakfast, of course, healthy food. Krista and Gerald, they have introduced me on the vegan path, and I must say that I have great benefit of this. Absolutely.
Really? I'd like to hear more about that.
Well,
how that's changed for you.
I feel lighter. Also, I have enough with 2 meals a day. Normally, I took 3 meals a day, but now I have enough with 2 meals a day. I feel less tired. If there is tiredness, then it is only because of studying too much. In Tibetan Buddhism, we call it we have too much lung. Lung is too much unbalanced energy. But because of healthy eating, vegan food, my mind expanded a lot. I can really feel it, how my energy field is much wider, much more open. And
I noticed the degree with which you were posting and what you were posting about got much more focused. That's what I noticed about you. And I didn't know that you had switched to eating a vegan diet.
No, yeah, but you are so busy to read all our posts, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot to keep up with.
It is.
It's a lot. Yeah. So to finish this subject or to round up this topic, in daily life, Jay, in the previous show, you mentioned that you regret so much that you cannot give an answer to your heart's calling, which is go and studying with a Tibetan master or with high evolved beings. I answered when you asked me the question, what should I do? Then indeed I answered to you, you have children right now. You have to finish this subject first with the fullest, the best of intentions, yeah. And when they are standing on their own legs and they are able to provide for themselves, then if you want to travel to enlightened masters, okay, yeah.
Right.
But this does not mean that you cannot practice already.
Right.
I was very happy when Matt, when he mentioned, "What are you doing in your spare time?" Yeah, which is so important. What are you doing in your spare time? And I was so happy to hear this. But then, after a few seconds, I was complaining and I was thinking, but why only spare time? Why not your full day from the moment you wake up in the morning until you fall unconscious at night? Yeah.
Right.
Spirituality is not something which is just practiced on a meditation cushion. As soon as you make the division in between my spiritual practice and my daily life, yeah, then you are not going to make much progress.
Right.
Yeah.
Life in itself is spiritual. Yeah, it is our engagement in society which makes the separation in between daily life and spiritual life. But we are spiritual beings, so our life is spiritually, isn't it?
It's like,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
when you're discovering this path, because a lot of, for me, I never came from a spiritual side at all. I never had any connections to any of this. So for me, it was in my free time studying this and then incorporating it into my life more and more until what you say, you merge it and then your life becomes one with that. And then there's no longer free time that's dedicated to that. It becomes just kind of all coerced into your life. And that's a step for me. It took a long way. It took a long time to get to that point. It was not easy to get to that point.
And I know Gerald's going to say something real quick, but just for me, and I've had this conversation with you guys. When I was 11 years old, I just was in church in Catholic Mass one day, and I realized this is complete nonsense. I have no idea. I have no idea what really was resonating inside of me to say that I knew that this was nonsense, but that was it. And then my whole life since then, I've kind of been in this duality of struggle, trying to balance friends and family who are Catholic and religious and, believing in those, Abrahamic religious teachings versus the seeker of J. Campbell, who's reading all this esoteric, lore and the texts and the manuscripts and seeking out people like Gerald, and Sitchin and Tellinger and all these people. And it's been really interesting because now I feel like in the last 8 or 9 months, everything has really come together for me. And I really have a much better grasp of what's going on. Gerald, what were you going to say?
Well, actually, I was going to say I've noticed that with people, Jay, is they'll go into a mode when they finally find a thread that's producing truth. They'll start pulling it, and they're just assimilating data like they're drinking it out of a fire hose.
Exactly.
And I went through that. Yeah, exactly. I went through that too, and I couldn't believe the book list I had used.
I know.
For my first book, I was like, I had to read all that just to get to this. I was like, okay. But what I was going to say was, as an engineer and a scientist, and I spent a large part of my time in spiritual circles, religious circles. And when I realized that the most spiritual thing I could ever do was pay attention to how I felt and how I was interacting with other beings, food, material things, and paying attention to how that made me feel is a simple measure of whether my energy is getting better or worse. Very simple. You don't need to be a sophisticated person to have advanced training to do that. Okay.
Which is actually basically mindfulness. You became mindful of yourself.
Are you aware?
Know thyself.
Yeah, so exactly. So, for instance, you can go to a class and learn to do Tai Chi, okay? But when you understand the principles of moving slowly in the gravity field, knowing that these various postures can actually change your structure to be coincident with the gravity field by doing this, guess what? You can take that home and you can do it in every activity you're doing. When you're bending down to get something out from underneath the sink, be mindful of where your head is and play the gravity game. So you can take spiritual lessons that actually turn into, for me, energetic, realistic things that you can do. Try this food for this one because it makes you feel better, right? This is what led me to a vegan diet. I noticed that I could stretch more effectively without eating meat. There was less uric acid. I didn't get stiff. It was an experiment. So for me, just choosing those things that in an attempt, like Matt was saying, if you're choosing to get better with your free time, you're choosing to raise yourself up, by the bootstraps out of this morass that you've been born in. If you make that effort, not only will you get facilitated from your higher self, but you'll actually start dialing in, like finding a radio station.
I was about to say things get better, and it goes back to what Marlene was just saying in the little group listing of things to do. When you check in, right? You check in with yourself throughout the day. Are you focused on something that's virtuous?
Yeah.
And
Very good question. Very good question.
And if you're not, that's okay, but change to something that is. And again, this goes back to Gerald's, all of our podcasts so far, what is your heroic mission? What makes you resonate and excites you and makes you passionate and more beyond that serves others?
Well, you hit it right on the head, Jay. As a matter of fact, I used to tell my kids when they were growing up, there's only 2 things you got to do in this life, really, to be successful. You need to find your passion and share it.
Right.
Exactly. And the passions may change over time.
And how many people
about sharing your passion? As you know, I was traveling inside of myself for many, many years. And it was only until the moment that Gerald and Jay pulled me out of my cave, well, my friends call this my cave, and started sharing on the internet also about my experiences and my knowledge. And then I was asked to come on the show, for which I really needed contemplation. But then shortly afterwards, a lady out of the blue, she came to me and she said, well, I just came back from an astrologer, and it turns out that in my past life I had a lot of spiritual knowledge, but I never shared it with anyone. And for this reason, I have so much obstacles now to getting my knowledge back.
Oh, are you speaking of this gal, Colleen, the astrologer that just showed up on the Decoders of Truth site?
No, I'm talking about a Tibetan astrologer here, and a lady who is here in town, who came to me.
I know.
She said that.
Marlene,
So
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Let me tell you, the only guarantee that you have that you will regain the knowledge that you have acquired in this life, there are two ways. The first way is bring it into existence, live it.
Manifest.
Your knowledge, yeah, you have to turn it into an experience.
Yeah.
Because into your next life, your mental imprints, all your intellectual knowledge is all gone. It's all gone. The only thing you take with you, yeah, to your next life is your experience, which is called our karma. Yeah, which are the deep imprints in the mind. So, first of all, if you want to make progress, not only in this life, but in Tibetan Buddhism, we think many lives ahead. Yeah.
Next incarnation.
First of all, you have to turn all the intellectual knowledge. You have to make a descent from here to here. You have to become it, live it, yeah, and you have to share it with others.
Yes.
Because if you keep all your information hidden in a box, in this conventional world, we are in a straight line. If your knowledge is staying here, yeah, and you reach here, well, you cannot go back to get your knowledge back because you locked it in here. But if you release the knowledge, share it, then people will carry it along, and when you are in your next incarnation, people will bring you back the knowledge that you have released in your past life.
I heard a wonderful analogy about the process of sharing what's given to you. It's kind of like flowing water. I think I saw this maybe on our site just recently. And that if stagnant water isn't going to turn a wheel that's generating motion in the process.
It was in the book. It was in the book. Yeah, the Master of the Far East.
Masters of the Far East, yeah.
Yes.
So in the process of you sharing that knowledge, it keeps the water flowing so the wheel keeps turning, right? It's like adding a dialogue to this continuous state of the human condition. It's important to keep that dialogue moving along because there is a goal for us to, I think, achieve a higher state as a conscious set of
we are all bound to. Yeah.
And we're all part of that, whether we know it or not.
And it's very, very important to share it. I cannot emphasize that enough. I remember on my path learning about a lot of this stuff and having it in, walking around outside and contemplating it all. And then kind of walking around feeling kind of good about yourself, like you figured things out. But then it would almost be like a sick feeling inside, an anxiety feeling inside that would develop because you didn't do anything with it, right? You just let it sit there and fester inside you. And it wasn't until I released it, like I released some of that energy out, that truth energy out, that you then found the true light that came back within you from that first step. So it's like it's like Marlene said, that 2-step process. If you don't follow both steps, you're essentially going to be causing yourself more negativity for that extended afterlife karma because you did not teach the things that you then brought in. It's almost like if someone gave you enormous benefit for something in your life and you never gave back, you're now going to always have that negative karma no matter what it is. And I especially think that's the same way with knowledge.
It's a reciprocity.
May I add something to that? Matt, may I add something to that?
Yeah.
We always have to keep the moment of death in mind. Okay, in the West, we are not used to it. Death is something that we do not think of. In the West, when you are contemplating or talking about death, people start to think that there's something wrong with you or that you are suicidal or something. Yeah. What is wrong with you? But in every scripture is written that you have to contemplate the moment of death. Why do we have to do that? We all know death is certain.
Yes.
We're talking about a physical death, okay, with its consequences that we are losing our intellectual knowledge. Okay, do we know the moment of death? Can anybody of us say here when we are going to die?
No.
It can be in 10 years, but it can be in 10 seconds.
Right.
We're not made to know.
No.
We really have to realize this and contemplate this on this fact, this reality on a daily basis. Why? It is because, first of all, it will motivate us to stay away from bad karma or to create bad karma, to do wrong, wrong things. Right. Because the things you are doing wrong, it's going to determine where you end up in your next life.
Right.
Okay. The second thing is that you become very vigilant. You don't have time for laziness.
Right.
Yeah, because you know in 10 seconds it can be over.
You really live in the moment. You have to live in the moment at all times.
Again, it's the whole, the Eckhart Tolle, sorry.
Yeah.
See, I learned. You tell me one time and I learned. But this goes right into the next 3 points. And we've been on for literally 60 minutes. We really have. It's amazing. It seems like we've been talking for 10 minutes. I want to try to get another 30 to 45 minutes in this conversation, really hardcore. We have obviously to have Marlene with us, who's had 11 years working with masters and teaching and practicing the ascension process, if that's what you want to talk about. I want to talk about that. Okay. So you just really led on to it. How does someone right now focus, someone who's watching our show, who's not at the awareness level that we are all at, but who wants to, let's say, Matt, you talked about it last week, somebody who's just literally woken up recently and are gravitating towards this and like, wow, this is so resonating with me. Marlene, what would your and all of us will share, but what would your recommendation be for a very newbie, very beginner in finding her awareness or finding his awareness? What is the fastest route to work on the ascension process? And before you say that, I want to ask you a really serious question. Because we talk about this all the time. Are we, and this resonates to me from the Lost Teachings of Atlantis, are we in a time and an epoch right now where we are running out of time in this material form, in this, avatar body, in this simulated event, which we're all finding ourselves in right now? Is time short, and is it imperative as a sapiens interested in universal consciousness, as you call it, to really start to work on the ascension process?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, in this way that, or let me start with a no. No is because you are universal consciousness. You always have been and you always will be. So you can always reach it if you don't realize it, yes.
Okay.
But why is the answer yes, we are running out of time, because in this era where we are living in, as we all experience, there is an enormous strong energy surrounding us and supporting us to make very fast progress on this path. It feels like you have a ticket, okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It feels like, look, this is your ticket out, but it has an expiry date.
Better hurry up.
Right. We all feel the same way about it.
Yeah. So I would say the people who really want to wake up, And I know in the group there are a lot of people in that stage and who are really started the process. The group exists now since 3 weeks. Yeah, the Decoders of Truth, the group on Facebook. And 2 days ago, I posted a comment from, okay, what have we learned? Are we still sitting lazy, or have we implemented it into our daily lives? Yeah, which is what it's all about. And I have noticed that in the group there are some people who are really working very hard on a daily basis, who are perceiving the information. Yeah, they really have been waiting for the right channel. Yeah. They vibrate with the posts and with the comments and the sharing in the group. Yeah, they absorb the information, they contemplate it. Yeah, they are no longer posting so many posts in the group. No, they have withdrawn themselves a little bit. They are doing the work. Yeah, and immediately, bam, they are implementing it. By some of the people, I have noticed an instant change. They realized something and immediately they brought it into action. To that I say, chapeau, hat off, because that is how we make progress, and that is how we can build up the group. Yeah, I also noticed that in the group there are a few individuals who are just there for information, who think that, oh no, I will wake up in my own time when I'm ready for it. Right. Okay, we all have free will, so I respect that. Yeah, but then please don't play around and don't distract the people who are genuine on their path.
Yeah, that's good advice.
With questions like, what kind of herbs did Enki grow in his garden?
Right. We have a very diverse group.
Okay, if this is your passion, if this is what you want to know, okay, then go for it. But if your goal is reaching universal consciousness as soon as possible, then asking yourself, allowing yourself to dwell on these kind of questions is not going to get you far.
I agree. And as a matter of fact, I think we can each give a couple of, catalysts, things that are golden rules of getting there quick that might help. And everybody's at a different place. So,
absolutely.
The person starts at a different place. And I think probably, given what I know now, there's some things that you can do to get there quickly. And there are other things that are going to take more work so there's big changes you can get, and then you're going to reach a plateau where in order to get past that plateau, you're going to have to do some real work, okay? Some real soul work. So, but there are ways that you can give people a little taste of success in getting to a plateau in that experience quickly, so they know what radio station it is they're trying to tune in. You know what I'm saying? And two things for me that I'll offer up. And I sent Jay a little link today to some binaural or isocrotic sounds that are specifically focused on your nasal concha for breathing. Okay, so we know what the frequencies are, the different ganglias or the wavelengths. And this particular one, in probably 5 breaths, wearing headphones and listening to this frequency, if you just do 5 breaths, deep breaths on a count of 7 in, 7 out, 7 in, 7 out through your nose, not your mouth. And on that 5th breath, hold that breath as long as it's comfortable. And then blow with back pressure out a small hole in your mouth for a count of 7. And just stop. And I tell people, please do this seated first.
It'll blow you away.
Don't do it standing because you'll probably fall down. But you will get a sense of the energy, especially if you're paying attention to how you're seated with your head on top. Even if you have to lean against a wall with a pillow in your back so that you can be upright when you do this, just try it. And I'll make that link available. But in that very short period of time, you can make the connection between the breath and the brainwave state that gives you a different experience of this calmness that Marlene was talking about. Okay, now imagine doing that for an hour. Okay, but you start out slow, and you can get there in just 5 breaths. And then when you're good with that, try doing in nature while you're standing up, holding on to something while you're standing up, and try the same thing. And you'll start to get a sense of your energy body and how it's different when you're in the gravity field with your, when you're seated versus standing. It's like, it's a huge difference in the quantity of energy that you get.
That's awesome, man.
Okay, so for example,
Gerald, just to make sure that the people at home understood the process, could you repeat the process clearly, step by step, so people can start practicing it?
Well, hold on, Gerald. We actually have a link that we'll post in the group after this video is live so that they understand what the heck it is. But
I have to back up and say that I introduced the idea of using sound to change your brainwave state. And we know this can be done with binaural beats, or there's this new
entrainment.
The new entrainment, the technique that's called isotronic. Have you seen this on the internet, on YouTube now? Look it up. So they're generating, instead of mixing 2 frequencies and creating a binaural beat that causes entrainment, which works really well, don't get me wrong.
Absolutely, it works.
But apparently this other technique, it seems to have a longer lasting effect, because once you turn off the entrainment of the binaural beats, it usually kind of dissipates, right?
It's called fast, yeah.
But anyway, I will put up a link of one that I found, and there's lots of them, and I've made them myself. They're easy to make. But the introduction of a sound to help change the brainwave frequency, instead of learning to be an advanced meditator, you got to get there too, okay? But the idea of meditating is something that I want people to start thinking about. This is something you can do while you're walking.
I honestly, I can't wait to do that till tomorrow morning.
You don't have to be in a cave.
Right, no, I mean, I literally am going to do that when I wake up tomorrow morning. And something else I want to add, and this is my 2 things. And then
Jay, why waiting until tomorrow morning? Why don't you start
I can. I'm just going to have kids here in a matter of minutes.
No, really. Why don't you? This is our habitual pattern. And
no, I get it. No, you're right. It has to become a part. It has to become a part of your life. You're right. It shouldn't be separate.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So while I'm sitting here, I don't know if I can change my camera. I will show you how I'm sitting here.
Right.
Can you see?
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. I'm practicing.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm sitting with an up straight back. I'm sitting in a half lotus position, and 30% of.
Me too. I do yoga, stretching all day long.
Yeah. Okay. And with that, 30% of my awareness is always at my breathing.
Right.
So that means that even while I'm talking to you, 30% of my mind is always in the present moment. So that means for 30% of my being, I'm having a continuous inflow, of universal energy.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. I wanted to say something, and I lost my train of thought a little while ago about that. But I think it's incredibly important that we spend a minute here. And Matt, jump in. I think most people have no idea literally how to breathe, right? Like we talk about that forward lean, Gerald, with the structural lack of balance, the lack of energy, body, and alignment. And how many people are so poorly structurally aligned from either being obese, from eating like shit, for being like all these things we talk about out of balance in many, many ways. They really can't even breathe.
I know. Well, there are structural blockages that are very significant along the costal arch of the ribs. This is the area where the ribs join with the diaphragm.
Right.
And that's why, one of the first things I've been telling people all along is get some structure work. It'll connect you with your body.
Yes.
And it'll also start activating your energy from your sacrum if you've got blockages on your ganglion impart and all this, okay?
Right.
So the thing with the breath is, and people need to understand, is the ribs are articulated in 3 different ways. The lower ribs, where the 12th rib is, actually opens up this way. So when you're breathing, they open up out. Can you see my hands? They open up out like that.
Yep.
When you come up near the costal arch of the diaphragm, they open up. Let me put my hand. They open. Actually, the diaphragm at the top opens up like this.
Exactly.
You've got the bottom opening out like this,
and then up.
Diaphragm opening like this, and then the top part expands way up in the thoracic ribs. So when you start out with belly breathing, you should see those 3 articulations in the breath. But how rare is that? Okay.
Oh, I mean, it's almost nobody knows how to do it.
Well, the other thing is a lot of it has to do with getting the fascia free around your ribs. Okay, because most people do not breathe deeply because of all of the occlusion.
They're mouth breathers. Yeah, they're mouth breathers.
Yeah. Well, so learning to breathe deeply is very important, and actually it goes hand in hand. It goes hand in hand with learning to do asanas in yoga.
Exactly.
Absolutely. There's no question. There's guys on the internet. You guys know the WHM Hof breathing method, right? And he's huge now, and he's got this massive following. And he's just a guy who teaches people how to breathe. But there's no question that it's a lost art, and obviously due to all the blockades and all the things that are happening, the engineered everything and the environmental stuff and all the blockages that people receive on a day-out basis, it's very, very difficult to breathe. And you guys are making a good point. People that practice yoga and deep meditation, they learn to align themselves from a seated posture or seated position so that it becomes natural. But if you're, and I say this all the time, in the health side of the things of the world, how many people are sitting at a computer all day long, leaned over, pronated, lordosis of the spine, the whole 9 yards, and there's no way they can even breathe without, as Gerald says, literally seeing a structural integrator who can work on them and fix the poor posture and the out of alignment body.
Yeah. I highly recommend everybody get structure work.
Absolutely. Yes, of course.
Or do yoga. I think
mix the 2 together, it's even better. If you mix yoga with structure work,
at least stretch as much as possible. That's it. That's all it is. I mean, you're really gonna feel it. We're these giant antennas. Our structural system, as Gerald has talked about many times, it follows a harmonic frequency that's just perfectly in tune to us. And breathing and becoming healthy through spring water and having good food, like we're all talking about vegan and all these things we can eat. All these things we can incorporate in our life. If you do all those things and you practice it with the mind and awareness of your actions and your time, you won't believe how fast the path will unfold in front of you. It just all comes together instantly.
Instantly.
It doesn't take long.
So this is a perfect seed. We've got a couple more bullet points. I don't think we're going to be able to answer any questions tonight, but that's okay because this is perfect. But one of the topics was activating and decalcifying our pineal glands.
Good segue, yeah.
So, obviously I want Marlene to expound. I want Matt to expound. Gerald, I want you guys to expound. But I don't know enough about that, but I know how important it is. I know that literally using ethnogens is the path, the highway, the spirit molecule, path, the transcendent path of, having your third eye, your mind's eye, the pineal gland open. So, how can people in general society today, again, watching this show, in the Decoders of Truth, anyone, how can you work on decalcifying your pineal gland? Who wants to go first? Go.
I'll go first.
I would maybe.
Go ahead,
can I go? Let's start with the history. Okay. Sure, and the reason why I was laughing when I was listening is because something came to my mind. Is 65,000 years ago, we human beings, we had an eye on the backside of our head. Okay.
Right.
And this was connected. Yes, indeed, but it was on the backside of our head. In that time, we were something like 12 to 15 feet tall. We were in the third root race, the root race of the Lemurians. The Lemurians is the root race before the Atlantis, which is the fourth root race of humanity. Yeah. And so they had spiritual vision. They could see auras. They could see energy fields that we absolutely are no longer aware of in our present moment conditions. So I think this to discussing this topic, it is very necessary to know where the evolution comes from. So the pineal gland 65,000 years ago, it manifested a third eye, which was on the backside. I do wonder why in many depictions there is a third eye on the forehead depicted, but yeah, 65 million years ago, the Lemurians, so where we came from, we had a third eye on the backside of our head, which gave us a lot of spiritual abilities, which do not have anymore.
Let me classify something, because you just said 65,000 and 65 million. You mean 65 million?
65 million.
Yes,
65
that makes more sense.
Yeah,
okay, got you.
65 million. Yeah, correct.
Okay. All good. Keep going. That's fascinating. Go ahead, Gerald.
I'd like to jump in on that just a second, because it's clear that we have reptilian features in our pons of our brainstem. And one of those is the pineal gland, which we know produces melanin in our skin for coloring. And it does the same thing in a reptile, so that, especially in chameleons and things like that can actually change their melatonin dynamically to adjust how much energy they're absorbing from the sun.
Yes, well, isn't that interesting, huh?
Yeah, well, our pineal gland, like Marlene said, used to be similar in that it was close to the surface of our head where we could utilize sunlight to derive energy. I mean, doesn't make sense, but we can't really do that now. Well, now the pineal gland is withdrawn quite deeply into the bowels of the cerebellum, if you will. It doesn't get sunlight at the surface. And I wanted to distinguish the pituitary gland that's associated with the third eye from the pineal gland that used to be an actual eye that could be stimulated by the sun. Now the question is, how is the pineal gland stimulated if it's not getting sunlight? It's still there, but now it's deep in the brain, right? Well, now we know that this energetic chakra system, when you reach the highest level of this energy through the Ida and the Pingala nadis, it actually triggers the pineal gland that causes these lateral ventricles to start working and gives you the wings of Hermes. So there's an energetic reaction now that doesn't seem to be as dependent on direct sunlight, but we still have that feature, and I totally agree that it's there.
Yes, and so if we look at the pineal gland as the all-seeing, it's the third eye, it's the eye of Ra, right? That's been worshipped all throughout Egyptian culture.
Well, I think that's the pituitary gland. I think the pineal gland is the crown chakra, and the third eye chakra is your pituitary gland. That's just
Yeah. So if we wanted to talk about unlocking the pineal gland and how it can become deactivated inside us and kind of be dormant within us. One of the things people need to understand is the most important aspect is water. Mm-hmm. Water is one of the most important functions that we need to have in a clean manner, because there is a high degree in the United States is a high degree of fluoride in almost all in significant amounts of public drinking water. Right. People really need to be aware of the fact that fluoride, one of the most primary factors that it causes inside our own body, is to cause the pineal gland to become dormant and to calcify. And so we have to, first and foremost, if we're not drinking large amounts of spring water that's been gone through some kind of a filter or unfiltered but spring, if we're not doing that, then we're missing the most important step right off the bat all along, because it's almost like fighting against the worst thing you could possibly be doing to attack your pineal gland the whole time. So that's to me, that's one of the first steps we must take, and then eat as much healthy food as possible and start. And once we start going down that road, our pineal gland will fall in line with activating with our own ambitions of becoming a better and a more aware consciousness.
I think it's also to make sure that you don't have mercury fillings in your teeth.
Yeah, I agree. There's lots of things that you can do to try to remove heavy metals. Krista sent me a text message with some of the things that she recommended dealing with pineal gland. And Matt clearly pointed out, you got to get the fluoride out of your diet and any transition metals. So the idea of using spirulina or a blue algae that moves that those heavy metals and things out of your body. It's a good detoxifying way to do that. But
yeah, there are actually 3 substances that we have to avoid at all times, and that is fluoride, chlorine, and mercury. And indeed, a raw vegan diet is it's enormously beneficial for that.
Well, you know, I was vegetarian for several years before I became vegan, and I was down at the beach one day, and I'm kind of a treasure hunter. I'd take my gold pan and go panning at different places. Even at the beach sometimes, I'd see a bunch of black sand and go, hey, you know.
Oh, nice.
So one day I was down at Torrey Pine State Beach in San Diego, and I was doing this. And I was walking barefoot, not really paying attention to anything, and I was panning through there. I could not believe the amount of mercury that ended up in the pan. It was unbelievable. I mean, I saw this and I was like, wow, anybody that's eating fish out there is getting exposed to this level of mercury that I'm finding right here on the beach. I can't even believe this.
It just sticks around, never goes anywhere.
Well, you know, at certain temperatures, it can be boiled off and turned into a vapor, and it goes back in the sky, and then it recoagulates and comes back down. It's like rain in a way. It's very odd. It's a very odd transition metal, liquid metal that Thoth chose to affiliate himself as the god Mercury, right? It's very strange, but it's very poisonous too. Very poisonous.
Amazing.
So I think we can summarize that is avoid tap water, avoid mercury, fluoride, and chlorine. And raw food, raw vegetables are very beneficial. But then we only have the physical decalcification. We also have to do the energetic or the spiritual decalcification, and that we do by clearing out our karma, stop performing negative actions through body, speech, and mind, and focus on virtue on the level of the 3 activities, which is the activity of body, speech, and mind.
Awesome.
Agreed.
Well, go ahead, Gerald.
Because if you're doing things that are triggering hormones in your body that aren't beneficial, I mean, think about when you get angry, releasing cortisone into your system, or getting, or think about eating an animal that's being.
I was about ready just to say that. You can literally go to McDonald's,
be slaughtered, and imagine the hormones that are in its bloodstream, and then you're consuming that. Okay, so these things matter. They matter in terms of your energy.
Gerald, I'm not kidding you. We just talked about that, and we're going to shift to the orbital passage of Nibiru in 1 second here. But we just talked about that in a podcast that I did on Tuesday night about the pesticides that are found in the meats that people are eating in North America and probably all over the world. And these things are so toxic that when they're looked at under a microscope, I mean, they literally kill cells and alter DNA. And so, you know, I was never a big believer in that, but now I am not eating anything. And again, I haven't moved to you guys yet. I haven't moved to veganism, and I'm sure it's coming. But I will not eat any beef that's not organic or grass-fed.
Good for you.
Nothing. I won't even touch it. And it's. I mean, it's. I'm saddened that I for so long didn't do that, because I had very smart people saying, "Dude, you can't eat that."
Are you mostly interested in meat for the creatine, buddy?
No. I just like, I don't eat a lot of red meat, but I'll, when I go out to dinner, I want to have a nice ribeye steak, a very, nice succulent piece of steak. I don't even eat, other than that, I eat fish.
You may not know it now, but as an experiment, like Marlene just went through, you will not believe the difference in the feeling of your energy when you just do that experiment and see what it's like to cut it.
Sure.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Ali did it to try to be able to be better at yoga.
Right. No, I already
flexible when I started. That's not the case now, but no.
Right. I totally know. Well, let's shift, and obviously, Arlene blew my mind there for a second, because she started talking about the 4th root race, and I'm like, oh God, she's got a bunch of esoteric knowledge. So I was like, we're not going there right now because we're running out of time on this.
Well, I was thinking,
but it was in the context of the.
No, it was awesome. I'm glad that you brought it up, because I know where it comes from, and believe me, I don't want to talk about that right now, but I do want to talk about the orbital passage of Nibiru. We got thousands of people reaching out to us, literally by the day. Hey man, are you going to have Gerald talk about it? Are we all going to die?
Well, you know, I was thinking about that, and you know, I've written quite a bit about numbers and calculations, and that comes naturally to me. Okay, and it's probably not something that you generally would share on YouTube because most people want a 3 to 5 minute video, and they want to stack them up in their queue and go through them real fast. But the idea of sitting and watching math, so I've been thinking about the issues with Nibiru and what is the right thing to share with people. And to be honest with you, Jay, going over numbers right now and getting people focused on that versus what we've talked about here tonight, I don't even really want to do that.
Pointless.
I'm not one of those people that wants to keep looking at the sky going, is it here yet? Is it here yet? Should I head for the bunker? I don't ever want to live like that.
I got it.
You know, so I do the math. The numbers say it's going to be here. I'm going to incorporate that into what I'm going to do in my spiritual path. And I'm not going to live out of fear, you know, as an extreme prepper.
No, and I don't know.
I want to hear Marlene's view on this because I know people on both sides of this category where if you know a tree is coming and it's going to fall on you, then get the hell out of the way, right?
Well, do you see this big smile on my face?
Right. I do.
Well,
Go ahead.
I was listening to you, and I'm very, very thankful for what you just have said right now, because we have to keep in mind again, everything originates from the mind.
Yeah.
What we focus on, that we are going to manifest also on the global level.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what I keep saying to J.O. over there.
Yeah. No, I mean, exactly. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Manifest. If we want to manifest in the world, we have to focus on the goodness. In my opinion, it is enough to know that there is this possibility that something is going to come. Yeah. Right. I think by now we all know what the consequences might be. Well, as we stated earlier, we can die in 10 minutes anyway. So
exactly. So just live in the moment all the time. What does it matter?
We are prepared for death any second, whether it comes in 50 years or in 5 minutes. Yeah. Of course, in the beginning, you have to prepare yourself to be ready. You have to bring your affairs into order. Make sure that, okay, when people are dying, yeah, what are the biggest regrets that they are having? The first of all is, I regret so much that I didn't enjoy life more.
You're worried about dying, right?
Yeah.
People who are dying, yeah, their main regret is, so who know that they are going to be dead in 10 minutes because they pulled out the plugs in the hospital, yeah, they say that the number one regret is, I did not enjoy life into the fullest. Yeah.
Live in the moment.
The second regret is that I didn't spend enough time with my beloved ones. Yeah, and I did not clear out certain arguments with people that I had in the past, even arguments of 50 years ago. In the moment that you are dying, everything comes back inside of your mind. And for your next incarnation, your moment of death is most important. It is very important that you can leave this world in a peaceful way. Yeah, your peaceful passing is going to give you more guarantee to have a safe passing.
Right.
Yeah.
I just want to throw kind of a color comment in here. I know there's a tradition in Tibet that when people of a spiritual nature die, oftentimes they would have themselves taken to the mountains and allow the vultures to consume them as part of the understanding of where they fit in the cycle of life, right? Here in the West, they view that as absolutely mortifying. But I have to say, when I do pass, that's how I want my body to be treated.
Well, guys, in the purposes of wrapping this up, because I have a feeling that I'm about to have a deluge of kids come into this place, and I don't want to completely destroy it.
Let me speak on Nibiru before you close that out. Yeah, I want to say something on that. There are so many sites and so many people that are cashing in on this fear aspect of Nibiru, and they're not even interested in Nibiru at all. They just want people to come in and listen and get subscribers. And here's what I think, and this is what I've been looking at. There have been so many times, if you look at our geological, you can look at ice core samples, you can look at so many different things where Nibiru passed that it did not cause destruction on the earth. We need to make that clear, because I don't think a lot of people understand that every time Nibiru comes through, every 3,600 years, it does not cause widespread destruction. It has to do with where it lines up with the earth and the sun, and those factors. And also, another thing to mention, never in human history, and Enki mentions this in his anonymous message, has technology come together to try to prevent this, along with all of the interests and so many vast different levels. I see this as the most optimistic time you could ever imagine to be alive, not the opposite. So don't be ruled through fear. Be ruled through optimism, and choose that on a level where you know how important you are, and you know how important now is, and don't let anything ever hold you in fear, no matter what it is.
Yeah, that's well said.
I agree. That's well said. Marlene, what are your final thoughts?
For the people who want to make progress on the path towards universal consciousness, loving kindness is most important. Okay, if there is only one thing that you are able to practice in your life, practice loving kindness. Loving kindness in the first place towards yourself, because we cannot give to others what we don't have inside of ourselves. So don't exclude yourself in your practice of loving kindness. And if you can add mindfulness to that, to your loving kindness practice, you will get so far already in this life, and you will have no regrets. So loving kindness and mindfulness.
Yes.
Oh, and discipline. Sorry,
awesome.
Discipline.
Awesome. Gerald, final thoughts.
Well, I think it's been absolutely wonderful having a feminine perspective on the show. And I hope we can continue to do that occasionally, because, you know, we may have our view as guys of how to get there, but having the balance and understanding that we have both aspects of masculine and feminine, and to recognize how important the feminine aspect is to achieving ascension. You cannot do it until you balance the masculine and feminine aspect in each of us. So I think I really want to say thank you, Marlene, for coming on the show.
Yep.
And I'm really happy to see that now that you've begun sharing your wisdom that you got in the caves and under the green lamp, that now you feel connected, that you're completing your mission and sharing this deep wisdom with people. And
exactly.
Thank you for doing that.
Agreed. So my final thoughts are the same thing as you guys said. Ascension, for those of us and those of you watching in the group, please first come into the group. If you're watching this on YouTube and you have no exposure, please come into the group and share your ideas, your thoughts, your questions for us, because as Matt says, it's a collective, it's a community. The more of you, the better off all of us are. And again, you know, the more love that we can share, the more acceptance that we can spread around. But I agree. I mean, the ascension process, if that's your goal, if spiritual enlightenment or universal consciousness is your goal, then, you know, this is going to be a very, very, very awesome show. It's going to give a lot of depth, a lot of insights into doing that. And like Gerald says, you know, we want to have more people come onto the show. So if you're a watcher or you're in our group and you think you have something to share with us, or you want to share some awesome stuff with us, please reach out to us. And you know, we'll try to get you on. And as Gerald says, next week we're going to try to do an all-female show. I think we might just have Gerald on to moderate, but I'm hopeful to bring my wife, Gerald's wife, Krista. Gerald's got a couple other women that he's highly recommending right now. So we'll have an awesome show next week, but it's going to be female-centric. So until then, guys, thank you guys for watching. It's been an epic show again. We appreciate you guys watching.
Yeah, thanks again.
Thanks.
Namaste.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. Namaste. Namaste. information over there. But due to ignorance, well, people did not really agree with the ISKCON temple. Also my father, for example. So he requested me to stay away from the people with very strange haircuts and white robes and singing bells and singing and dancing in the street. He was afraid that his daughter would get brainwashed or whatever wrong information is there. And so yeah, I left it, and this is how I encountered Buddhism. And that was when I was 25. I also was doing yoga, hatha yoga, very intensely, of which I still have very much benefit in the present day. And then at the age of 25, I knew, okay, this is it. This is the only thing worth living for. So for 5 years, then I have been preparing myself. I already started studying, creating all the causes and conditions in order to India. And then at the age of 29, it was January 2003, January 2003, I just packed all my bags and I arrived in India. And that's about it.
Wow. So you've been studying in India. Tell us a little bit about that. So you've been studying under whom for how long?
My first teachings were in the year 2003, which were the teachings of His Holiness Dalai Lama. So as most of you know, I live in Dharamshala, and I live right behind the corner of His Holiness. So we call him His Holiness, referring to his pure essence inside and all the accomplishments that he has made in this lifetime and previous lifetimes. So my first teaching was with him, and then I was directed towards a student of him, Geshe Sonam Rinchen. 30 years ago, His Holiness Dalai Lama, he felt the need for Westerners to have guidance on a daily basis. And so he requested Geshe Sonam Rinchen to start teaching in the Tibetan library here in Dharamshala, MacLeod Ganj. And so he did so for more than 30 years. Every day, for 1 hour a day, he was teaching us all the scriptures, all the Buddhist scriptures. Topics from loving kindness up to universal consciousness. So I attended these classes for many years. You could say 1 hour a day is not so much, but if you really take it seriously, then in 1 hour you get so much information, and then the rest of the day you have to make time for contemplating the information and to familiarizing yourself and then implementing it into your daily life. This is how we make the fastest progress on the path. Then also I attend teachings of other masters. We also have Chamtrul Rinpoche, which is a sentient being who is reincarnating continuously to help us to make progress on the path. And then on YouTube, you also find Jetsunma Tenzin Palmo. She's a remarkable person. She originates from England, and at the age of 19, she came to India. She became the first Westerner Tibetan nun. She had been meditating in a cave for 12 years, so she has enormous amount of experience, and she is teaching Westerners, also guiding them on a daily basis. You can find a lot of information about her. What is so good about Tenzin Palmo is that to have sacred scriptures explained from a Westerner mind to a Westerner mind, that is very, very beneficial because Tibetan Buddhism has been written for a Tibetan mind. Mm-hmm. And we Westerners, we are much more sensitive than Tibetan people. Tibetan people have a much broader mind. Also, in Tibetan Buddhism, everything is very exaggerated. So that the people of the Tibetan minds could easily grasp the meaning of everything. But we Westerners, we would take everything so seriously, and we are sometimes so strict with ourselves that
Hey guys, what is going on? It's Jay Campbell from the TRTRevolution.com and the Definitive Testosterone Replacement Therapy Manual, and I am joined here by my wonderful friends on our 7th episode of the Decoders for Truth podcast. I have, of course, Matthew LaCroix, the brilliant, amazing author of The Illusion of Us, and then the incomparable Gerald Clark, who has written The Anunnaki of Nibiru and The Seventh Planet Mercury Rising. So much to talk about, but before we get into all that stuff, we are joined by a very, very special guest, a member of our group on Facebook, which again is on the Decoders of Truth guys on Facebook group. It's everywhere on YouTube. We posted everywhere. Just reach out to us if you want to get in there. But Marlene, I cannot pronounce her last name very well, but she goes by Fankus inside the Facebook group, and she has been been able to join us tonight, and we are extremely, extremely excited to have her with us. She has an amazing story. And with that said, Marlene, how are you?
I find myself in perfect conditions, thank you. And I'm very, very privileged. I'm very happy to be able to be with you here tonight. Tonight in your place, but morning here in India. That's
so awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Matt, how are you doing, brother?
Doing great. I'm having a nice night. It's nice and cool tonight for once. We've had a few hot nights, but it's nice to see how bright and sunny it is over on Marlene's side over there.
No doubt. She has wonderful lighting. Gerald, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. It's nighttime here, just like it is for you guys. But in Dharamshala, India, what is it, about 8 o'clock in the morning now, Marlene? Is that about right?
Correct. Yeah, correct. Right now we have exactly 8:05 in the morning.
Awesome.
A truly connected discussion tonight here, Jay.
Totally connected discussion. I mean, again, like we've been saying, the wonder of the internet, this is the nerve ganglia for people of high conscious to, join together and communicate. So a lot of stuff, as always. We have a lot of questions, but we have some topics of discussion that we think are really at the top. And first and foremost, we want to talk to Marlene about, her story and, how she's gotten to where she is now, what made her, pursue what she's pursuing. And without said, I don't have to say anything else. Marlene, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you've been doing over the last 10 to 15 years and how you found us, and, whatever you want to share with us. We're really excited to listen to it.
Well, to start from the beginning in this life, I was born on 24th of December 1973, so I'm a Capricorn. And I think for the most of us who are in the present moment in search for truth, it starts actually from a very early age. Most of us, we didn't really fit into society. We felt like something was missing in our life. And when you grow up and you have access to more information, then you come in contact with certain aspects in life that you feel okay, this is it. For me, it was at the age of 19 that I encountered Hinduism, but due to distractions, I could just continue with my life. And then at the age of 23, this knowledge came back on my path. So I studied the Bhagavad Gita, which is related in Hinduism, which is a complete book, which explains about karma, about all the different layers of our being, and how to reach our highest potential, which is our godliness, which is inside of us. So these days we call it universal consciousness, but the more traditional names are enlightenment or Buddhahood or Christ consciousness, whatever label suits for a person. Then let's see where will we jump then. Due to causes and conditions, I had to leave the Bhagavad Gita behind because I was joining an ISKCON temple. I was going to the temple to get, we are actually harming ourselves and we are pulling ourselves down by thinking I'm not good enough, I'm failing on every level, and in this way, of course, we cannot make progress. So this was just to call out a few names, a few divine beings that I had the privilege to study with and practice with.
Jay, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask her, Marlene, a couple of questions.
Of course.
Number one, being a Westerner, Marlene, you clearly can see the places where the concepts of spirit and energy and the kind of things I've written about in my book tie in with Buddhism. And I know you've read that information. So how would you explain to the Western mind what the linkage is for the idea of Buddha consciousness or Christ consciousness and the concept of some of the terms that are used in the Christian faith, for instance? How would you link those for people so that they understand we're really talking about the same thing? Or do you want me to do
that? Well, you can do it. I think we all learn from
I'd like to hear your perspective because you clearly didn't go down a traditional path from your origin. Okay.
Well, I think that we all have to start with the beginning, and that is the creator of all. Yeah, everything comes from the creator of all, which means that all the religions, they are also coming straight from the creator of all, whether you want to call him God or whatever label suits you. That is just secondary. Yeah. So every true religion comes from the same source. Mm-hmm. Now, when you dive into a religion or a certain path, since it is all based on the same foundation, they are all talking about the same, only the terminology is different. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would even include today's science in that. Yeah, we label it as science, but to me, what is science? Science is explaining to the today's modern mind what the sacred religions have been telling us since 65 million years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They used to be combined too. It didn't used to be a separate thing.
Well, I wanted to find out, have you read some of the writings of Krishnamurti from that area? He was a really great teacher in India.
No, I have not. No, I have not. No.
Okay. He was one of my favorites. I just wondered if you connected with him. Because a lot of your thinkings about spiritual matters are very similar to mine. And I know that's why we've been resonating with each other on Facebook or YouTube
well,
all the time.
You know, you can find truth everywhere. Mm-hmm. In whichever field, if you just dig deep enough, then we will all come to the same conclusion, which is actually very normal because all the information comes from the same source.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of that, I wanted to share. Speaking of sources, not to interrupt you, one of the key areas that got me so interested in the Buddhist path and the Hindu path was the understanding of who Ningshita, Thoth, Buddha really was. Because if you look up who Buddha was, what's his affiliated planet, what are his signs, you'll find it was none other than Ningshita. And I think, Marlene, you discovered that as well, did you not?
Yes, well, actually, I never heard of Thoth or Ningshita before I met you. Because for 13 years or for 12 years, I was traveling inside of myself. I was a little bit cut off from the information of daily life. But for what I have read, for what I have studied, Thoth and in the reincarnation as of Ningshita, it is exactly the same, 100% exactly the same as Jesus and the Buddha.
Right,
I agree.
So it would not surprise me also when we are listening to other sources. There is the book, for instance, The Children of the Law of One, The Lost Teachings of Atlantis. Yeah?
See, yes. Mm-hmm.
I have gone through this book. I have found nothing that I do not agree with. I resonate with everything. And in that book is mentioned that Thoth was here since the very beginning, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
when the first souls descended on Earth.
Mm-hmm. Well, that coincides with what he says in the Emerald Tablets as well.
Some of them are going to go and meditate in a cave, which is not necessary, but it helps you to get away from unnecessary distractions. Right. So to answer your question straight, I think most of the hardcore practitioners, no, they are not spending so much time on the internet, or if it is related to their research into the scriptures and so on, then they would do. I've experienced that a lot of lamas now and high rinpoches, which are very high evolved beings on the Tibetan Buddhist path, their students are posting more and more on the internet, but they themselves, well, His Holiness Dalai Lama, he does not know how a computer works. He can type a little bit on it, but that is it so far. But then on the other hand, if he would have spent so much time in computer knowledge, then we would not be able to benefit from all the wisdom that he has right now. So they have their priorities straight.
Well, that's why you're bridging that gap for us tonight.
That's right. So right.
But you know, to be honest, okay, there was a couple of months ago, that I was studying about the Lost Book of Enki, going back to the Emerald Tablets, going to other sources of the Anunnaki, and there was a very loud call inside of me that was saying, Marlene, what are you doing? Are you really still on your path? Are you really still following your compass, or are you getting distracted right now? Yeah. And I thought, well, but it's important to know what happened to the world, to know what happened to us. And the answer was immediately, Marlene, as soon as you reach universal consciousness, you will know everything. And you will just know everything. You will be able to help everyone without a single mistake. Yeah. So keep your priorities straight. Yeah. Stay on your practice. Do not divert from your practice. Yeah, which takes a lot of discipline. Yeah.
I hope you're going to not to interrupt. I hope you're going to take just a few minutes, not to make it seem unapproachable what it is that you do as part of your practice, but maybe share some of the steps that I don't know that are common practice that you do each day. I think there were some of them that Jay had on a document.
Well, yeah, I have it.
Okay.
If you want, let me share this.
I will get to that.
Okay.
I will get to that.
Okay.
But so I think for any person who has the goal of to get out of the matrix, in Buddhism we call this to get out of samsara, the world of illusion, the matrix only being inside of your head. The matrix is not existent outside of us. The matrix is only existing inside of our own mind. If you have as your personal goal, to come out of the matrix, then it's very necessary to get your priorities straight, to make a schedule and to not divert from your schedule. You have to be very disciplined.
And you have to take the red pill, don't you?
Careful.
I mean,
he's a trickster.
We're really going down the rabbit hole now.
I think that Matt would have preferred to have the color blue for the red pill.
Well, you know, actually, that's funny.
Blue pill all the way.
Well, it's funny that there's a polarity discussed about the chakra colors. Well, like I think you mentioned on a post, you have to enter the red before you ever get to the blue, and everything in between has to be clear. So it's really symbolic.
Absolutely. Well, the highest chakra, which is the crown chakra, cannot be fully functional if all the other chakras are not in balance.
That's correct.
And what determines right or wrong is in the way you are using the energy. Yeah. I prefer to be balanced in the root chakra than unbalanced in the throat chakra.
So,
Yeah.
so let me ask you a question about that then, because you wrote another amazing post 2 days ago about how the root chakra, not the root chakra, the crown chakra doesn't become activated until a certain year interval in your life, which just happens to be the time for me. So it blew my mind, and I need to research chakras more than I have, and that's something I will do. But when you
prior to Atlantis, he claimed that he, along with 32 other avatars, came to this earth. And at that time, there was a terrible battle of dark and light going on then. Ooh.
So there we have
yeah. There you go.
There it is. So just real quick to add. So Marlene recommended this book to me. I finished it. It is an amazing, amazing book. I mean, there's a lot of similarities to, the stuff that Gerald is talking about in both of his books. And obviously there's stuff in here too that correlates to what Matt has written in his book as well. But
there's one other document too, Jay. There's one other document called the Kabbalion. If you haven't read that one.
So, it's so funny. Somebody recommended it to me, but that's the teachings of Hermes, right? Which is obviously
exactly. And actually, I have to tell you, I'm reading the Manly P. Hall book, Secret Teachings of All Ages. And he's got a massive amount of documents inside that book where he's talking about Thoth and Hermes. So I'm really focusing on that part right now. And it all seems to point back to him, actually, as the source of most of our understanding of spiritual matters.
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing, guys? If you also mention another very, very important name is in the Library of Nagamati they discovered in the Giza Plateau, the Book of Enoch.
Right.
That is also, the incarnation of Thoth.
I agree.
So if you look at if that's the very beginning of pagan earliest religion, spirituality,
right? Gnostics.
If that's the very beginning of where it came from, then it makes sense that that's the same being who's been spreading it all over the world all along.
Yeah. Speaking of that, Mauro Bellino comes to that same conclusion in chapter 10 of his book.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, I think at this point, and we've identified this on a couple of shows, and I got a couple of questions for you, Marlene. But I think at this point, for any reasoned seeker who's pursued knowledge, whether it's in the form of working under ascetics or ascended masters, as Marlene has, or whether it's myself or Matt or Gerald, in reading for decades or close to a couple decades for Matt, I think it's just there's no way to not put two and two together and to say that Thoth is the incarnation of all of these other great ascetics, these teachers, and Marlene said Buddha and Jesus the Christ, and all of these other great teachers. I think it's just too simple once you're at a level of understanding to see the unison across cultures around the globe of how there's one figure. And again, we could name them, you could say Quetzalcoatl, you could say Viracocha. I mean, it's the same person.
Yeah.
And that's when you understand that, at least in my opinion, and I know you guys share it with me, it seems easier to try to define this, quantitatively versus I just remember 2 years ago when I was down this path and I really started getting higher and really pursuing this before I knew who Gerald was. Well, actually, it was right. I just read the Anunnaki of Nibiru, but Gerald and I had no relationship. I really wanted to understand how Jesus could have been all over the world, right? Like if you read Slave Species of the Gods, and I read that a long time ago, but when I read that book and I started reading Tellinger's information about how Jesus was everywhere, it didn't make sense. Like, how could Jesus be on every different part of the globe, when he was supposedly around? Well, it makes sense when you realize that Thoth is incarnating in physical avatar beings who are considered spiritual teachers, and they're everywhere around the planet because they're conveying the same message. And so anyway, to get back to Marlene real quick, so Marlene, you had mentioned this to us, and then, your posts are amazing in the group. And so the people that you've taught under, are they connected at all digitally as you are? Like, do they actually use the internet and communicate the way we're communicating? I mean, because obviously, you found Gerald through his YouTube stuff, and then we found you, and then you found the group, and now we're all communicating. But I mean, is that reasonable to assume, or are they so removed from all of this that they have no communication with the outside world at all?
Well, everybody is unique and everybody has its own way of dealing with life. But for, let's call them the hardcore practitioners, they are focusing solely on reaching universal consciousness as soon as possible. So they are having their priorities very straight. I want to reach enlightenment in order to help all sentient beings to reach. And since this is a very intense practice, very time consuming, but a very joyful path, they are not allowing any distraction to come on their path. This is the reason why